I crouched behind a toppled dark, brown wall of ferricite, my heart racing in rhythm with the distant echo of plasma fire. The acrid scent of burnt metal filled the air, tinged with an underlying sweetness that made my stomach churn. Smoke crawled around me like an ethereal fog, its haze clawing at my vision as I peeked over the edge of the crumbling barricade. Just outside, the remnants of the once bustling Commonwealth district lay in ruins, a charred grave for the hopes of so many. This is it, I thought, trying to convince myself as I gripped my pulse rifle tighter, blaster charged and ready, just as Lola had taught me. This is how we redefine victory. But how could I redefine anything when all I could see were the bodies? They were strewn carelessly in the invisible crossfire, a testament to failed plans and our misguided intentions. My best friend Marcus, who had promised me a celebration feast once we got home, lay face down in pooling blood. He wouldn't make it through this one. No. My heart clenched at the thought, blending the physical pain of the moment with a torrent of dread that festered in my chest. I turned my eyes away, searching behind me for Lola, the commander who had fought hell and high water to lead us to this point. She was my mentor, hard as nails but fiery when it came to protecting us, her troopers. We had a history. I'd known her since my first day training among the soldiers at Requiem, where my dreams of heroism had clashed headlong with her unyielding pragmatism. Our arguments had been countless, centered on strategy and ethics, but they were born of respect. That night, alone in the trenches, I thought about my latest clash with her. "People die, that's the cost of war," she had shouted, her voice raw with frustration. She'd pointed out how I had wanted to preserve lives during the last skirmish, how I'd argued for retreat when our troop numbers dwindled to shadows. My peacekeeping heart had clashed with her ruthless tactics again, and as I'd turned away in turmoil, I realized I had never lost a battle before. I never truly understood the bitter thrill of winning, of survival over compassion. The reality of our battle now thrust into my thoughts as explosions rang closer, rattling dust and debris down from the concrete ceiling. Gina. The bark of her voice cut through the chaos, and I swung around. Lola had emerged from the smoke, mud, streaked and with wild strands of black hair framing her weary face. "Get moving." Her boots slapped hard against the dark terrain as she approached, framing her as both fierce leader and my last tether against despair. "We need to breach the northern corridor." Her eyes bore into mine, sharp as daggers reflecting the chaos. No more hesitation. If we don't take this chance, all we've fought for is lost. Because our victory has always come at a cost, we should gather intel, figure out what they've planned. My voice broke in a childish plea, betraying the strength I wanted to project. "Gathering intel is a luxury we can't afford," she snapped, her patience draining as we stood amidst chaos. "You think the patrol cares for our preservation? You think they're going to wait for us to play it safe? We either go now, or we're just more bodies among the heap." Lola should have given me space to ground myself, gracefully transitioning me from infectious hope to gut-wrenching determination. But instead, I felt the weight of defeat every time I made my voice heard. I bit back my frustrations as she prepared to lead us into the fray, knowing that I didn't have much choice but to follow. I was torn between ideals I held dear and the raw reality of our situation. The winds of the shattered lands howled a warning as another explosion shook the ground. Dust rained down upon us, and I could barely see through the swirling chaos. I closed my eyes momentarily, imagining what home felt like. An earth free from war, maybe even a table filled with rich, strange foods, laughter echoing among friends. Memories that felt further away than the stars above us. "Ready, Gina?" Lola asked, her gaze fixed straight ahead. "Ready," I lied, my mind still grappling with the fear of failure. The stakes were palpable, our victory unforeseeable. As we charged towards the northern corridor, that heavy dread slipped through my fingers. I forced all thoughts of doubt aside, reminding myself of the faces I fought for, those who had fallen, and those who still believed in our success. I knew in every pulse of overclocked adrenaline that the path forward would upend my understanding of victory, But letting go now felt like surrender, and it was too late for surrender. We stormed the corridor just as an explosion ripped apart the wall where we had been standing just a moment before. Light and air surged around us, the room bursting into a profound chaos. But sometimes, amidst all that noise, clarity dawns. It was in that split second, with the world swirling into madness around me, I began to understand that victory might not mean what I thought it did. I would have to discover my own answer if there was any hope to find a new dawn. The tumult of the corridor settled to a grinding silence, but my senses were anything but muted. The payload exploded behind us, making a grim fireworks display of debris while we pushed forward. I could feel Lola's energy surging, her confidence infusing me with a flicker of hope, enough that I almost believed we could plunge headfirst into the chaos and emerge whole. My pulse raced as the looming shadows of the patrol's base loomed closer. "Get down," Lola shouted, dropping to one knee before our group like a coiling spring, incidentally awaking every instinct within me. We ducked behind a sagging metal structure as heavy footfalls clattered toward us. The patrol had responded faster than we had anticipated. Sweat dripped from my brow as I glanced around, new faces amid the familiar shrouded in fear. "New augmentations," I whispered, tilting my head toward a soldier across from me who bore a knee-mounted plasma cannon. The eyes surrounding the weapon gleamed with an ominous blue light, a sign of machine. "Enhanced judgment. Be wary," Lola cautioned quietly. "Too many augmentations cloud humanity. They act without hesitation." She glanced back at me with a quick, hard nod before signaling us to another flank. Just opposite the corridor's edge, beyond a darkened entryway, was a tech-laden control room shimmering with screens aglow. Our objective threatened to slip through our fingers if we waited too long. "We burst in, take control, and gather data," she ordered. "We need to know exactly how they plan to leverage this conflict against us. Our fight isn't just here, it stretches throughout the provinces, encompassing those who are reluctant to rise." I edged closer, sensing the electric excitement that swirled around her words, pulling the others along. "No missteps," I cautioned, my voice steady, focused though my insides twisted wildly with an unrelenting wave of fear. There was an inkling of vulnerability hanging around us, like a thread just waiting to break. I could see the flickers of doubt and resolve among my fellow soldiers. "We can't afford casualties, especially with the enhanced. Stay sharp. We're all capable," Marcus, a soldier from my past, interjected as he fiddled with his pulse weapon, determined yet shaken. "I trust you, we all do." I nodded, knowing that Marcus's smile carried our shared dreams of glory, dreams reinforced by the thrill of action and the fire of our newfound purpose together. As we pushed onward, that smile spread through me, banishing the darker thoughts. The control room door stood before us, its surface slick and metallic, a gemstone guarding unspeakable knowledge. "On three," Lola whispered. "1, 2, 3. We stormed into the control room, a mixed wave of trepidation and anticipation washing over me. Inside, orange lights flickered overhead, casting erratic shadows across a circular array of holographic interfaces, a labyrinth of information about the war wrapped within impenetrable protocols. The bleeps and whirs of machines pulsed like a surreal symphony. A distraction for the eyes, but we had to stay focused. Control the conduits. We've got to override the command protocols and access the mainframe. Lola barked instructions over the clicking keyboards and swooping lights. I dashed to the console nearest me, the digits reflecting off my armor like anxious stars. Sweat trickled into my eyes as I began decoding the prompts. Just as I started, a burst of screams echoed in the corridors, leading away from the room, dragging my attention down with a sickening lurch. "Lola," I gasped. "What was that?" I managed to see tentative shadows creeping along the walls, faces just out of view. "We're not alone. They're coming for us. Focus," she shouted. "Find the override. Now. There's no time." Her voice drove me, hand flying across the keyboard, fingers racing. The data unfolded. a secret web of codes and numbers I knew couldn't be right. My mind flitted through layers I no longer knew how to read, snatching at whispered memories in the clutter of training. Suddenly, a screen blinked, revealing a map of the shattered lands connected, interwoven in ways I had never dreamed possible. "This is insane," I barely whispered amidst the din. "They're consolidating their forces, look at all this." And in that moment, I understood just how massive the conflict had truly become. The thin line between side and side had blurred beyond recognition. "Gina, don't get distracted," Marcus growled. I hastily diverted my gaze back to the console, heart pounding, eyes scanning for the override command while shadows danced cruelly around the periphery of my vision. The earlier screams had morphed into the faint echoes of footsteps nearing our location. The almost mashed words barely formed together. My heart raced heavier than the rubble outside that shook in our presence. "There's more than just enemies. They've assembled a tech interface, augmented soldiers they're planning to turn citizens," I muttered, studying the proclamations on the holographic screen. "The truth might ruin the suppression of our rebellion. It's not just military tactics. It's manipulation of the very people we want to protect. Communities designed for a stronger control." "You know," Lola interjected, slamming a fist against the glass, banishing the noise. "We can't let our next move be dictated by their machinations. No future can emerge through fear." But with every sentence that poured out of my mouth, I felt the coiling uncertainty grow, feeding on itself, like a beast starved for answers. A searing shot of plasma ground into the wall beside us, forcing me to duck instinctively. "They found us," Marcus yelled, every note of fear puncturing his bravery. "I'm done waiting. We take the fight to them." In the chaos, my thoughts flared into doubt. Every layer of the mission had become tainted now, with our humanity hanging in the balance. And worse, the rooms beyond us held truths that could shatter all we had fought for. "Lola, we can't explode our way out," I countered, stepping forward, trying to reach through the storm of exhilaration and knee-jerk action. I couldn't let our anger guide us, not to outcomes I feared. "They'll use this. They'll twist what we find into tools for control." But all around me, familiarity and rhythm twisted. I had assumed we would know every path before we began, like rehearsing a violent ballet of conflict. I could taste that metallic feeling of despair sitting in my throat as urgency rose. "Gina, focus." Lola's voice hoisted me out of my spiraling thoughts. "Find that override, now." Desperation clung to my ribs, and I dove deeper into the web of data surrounding me, seizing every spark of confusion beneath my fingertips. A sliver of a code flickered, spelled in some foreign tongue that mirrored my own internal battle between certainty and madness. I could almost hear a voice chanting through the static, beckoning me into a void. Torn between chasing the truth and defying all I knew of our reality, I wrestled against my own limitations. The fate of our conflict depended on the next stroke of courage. With a plunging heart, I pressed a key, resetting the defenses. Instantaneously, the world trembled and reality warped in on itself. Streams of commands unraveled before me. "Download complete," I shouted through the noise of handheld weaponry and sparks of energy. In the dark corners of the room, shadows twisted in new shapes, altering as I glimpsed them. A glimmer of humanity hidden beneath cyborg enhancements, but their presence took root in my mind. "Let's go, now," I shouted, fighting the walls that closed around us as they lunged toward me, pulling their assailants behind them. Everyone moved, my feet pressed into motion until we collided with one another in the passageway, a flood of bodies. "We need to regroup," Marcus shouted just as we stumbled into the flickering corridor beneath a wake of pulsing lights. "With what we've got," Lola shouted back, sweat tracing her determined frown, and the moment hung electric. The energy in that room had shifted, awareness clashing with fear. I could see it, a glimpse into what lay ahead, where our choices would twist the paths of our people and the bloodlines we fought to protect. Something deeper simmered between battles that stretched across mountains, through shadowy confluxes that betrayed everything we believed. The question was clear. Who were we without that unyielding truth guiding us? And as I took the cultivated fear from beneath the surface to breathe, I thought we'd discover the true measure of our resistance, the flick of the flame that shattered the silence of a dawning revolution. With every arduous step, we formed a new path from the ashes of a world that had twisted our desires into something more profound, igniting a war for both clarity and truth among the uncertainty ahead. We staggered into the smog-filled corridor, our lungs burning from the acrid scent of burnt wiring mingled with the metallic tang of blood and sweat. Lola led us with unyielding determination, pushing past debris that whispered of abandonment and despair. Behind her, I struggled with the weight of downloaded truths, a holographic cache of horrifying data still swimming in my mind. My fingers trembled as I touched the console's deactivated screen, acutely aware of the very people I fought for. As we charged through the chaos, the stakes loomed larger than life. We weren't just battling the patrol, we were fighting a layered conspiracy that sought to manipulate the very core of humanity. We need somewhere to assess what we've stumbled onto, Lola barked, her voice sharp and pulled tight with urgency. Find a secure exit. How about the surface? Marcus chimed in, eyes darting left and right, assessing the danger that lurked around us. That's our best shot. At the moment he spoke, a tremor rippled through the corridor, the telltale sign of the patrol's encroaching forces. Get down, I yelled as gunfire rang out, ricocheting off the walls, sending sparks flying through the stagnant air. We propelled ourselves down a side passage, ducking into a dark recess just as a volley of plasma rounds detonated against the concrete outside. The sound echoed like thunder in my ears, a visceral reminder that we were intruders in their domain. Are they hunting us or her? I whispered hoarsely, glancing sidelong at Lola, who flushed momentarily. Her expression shifted, turning darker around the edges as though someone had lifted a veil of loyalty. I realized then there was something deeper at stake, a betrayal lurking in the corners. Lola, what aren't you telling us? The air hung heavy with anticipation, and all eyes turned to her. You think I'm withholding information now? Her voice snapped back, but the panic that rippled beneath her bravado was unmistakable. We're in the belly of the beast, Gina. Focus. The truth matters. We've lost sight of who we are. I implored as tension cut through the shadows. And not now, Marcus interjected, his voice low yet commanding. We can't afford doubt. We need to decide our next step. I clenched my jaw, the conflict swirling around like a maelstrom, threatening to engulf us whole. As we huddled together, I fished through the data that had scrolled across the console in the control room. My gut twisted, igniting fire deep within. This is not just about winning, this is about how our fight is being twisted, I insisted. We're pawns, Lola. Surrendering agency to a puppeteer we don't even see, the augmented soldiers they are former allies, citizens enslaved to their own desire for power. For a fleeting moment, the edges of Lola's veneer cracked. I saw flickers of what lay beneath, the weight of a past clawing at her conscience. They're not just augmented, they're foundational to the patrol's power structure. Her voice lost fervor as she trailed off. I fought alongside some of them. They're still out there, fighting for something they no longer understand. I pressed, feeling the tension coil tighter. We can't abandon them. That's naive. Her voice caught like a blade drawn in anger, momentarily startling me. We stood above the ashes of our revolution, clashing with the truth that seeped through every fracture. Our loyalties have been twisted. Those who stand alongside us are at risk of becoming enemies. What if we don't have to choose sides? Marcus interjected, stepping into the forefront. What if we unite against the real enemy, these manipulators who would turn us against each other? I stepped closer to him, encouraged by his resilience. Breath suspended, I could see that fighting and defiance forged deeper connections than the blade of betrayal. Perhaps trust against all odds could birth something extraordinary, something that would ripple out beyond our battle. We need a way to reach them, I said, urgency surging back. The civilians scattered in the remnants. they'll know where the truth lies, how to untangle our nightmares. Our conversation hung suspended, alive with the fiery essence of possibility, like a flicker of breath igniting the ashes of hope. "You're thinking of the outcasts, those we abandoned?" Lola asked cautiously. "Yes," I confirmed, rolling the risk through my mind, but sensing a flicker of fire through my veins. "I'd rather reach for the tattered edges than remain bound to the yoke of oppression. Gina." Lola's tone shifted, softer now, probing deeper. "What makes you think they'll trust us again?" I had to dig deeper, scratching the surface of what bonded us, even beneath the weight of this heavy conflict. "Because we exist outside of this structure." The weight of certainty imbued my voice, heart charging the air between us, binding us beneath the oppression we fought so hard to resist. "Let's break the game. Let's dismantle loyalty forged in steel and reclaim the sense of purpose that has been swept beneath this conflict." For a heartbeat, silence reigned in our huddled space as Marcus clenched his teeth, glancing between us. "Then let's hunt for them. We'll bring them to the surface." In that instant, clarity rippled out in waves, the fleeting idea of a revolution crystallizing before our eyes. We caught the tendrils of hope entwined in purpose. I saw it reflected in their eyes, a tiny flicker amid disbelief. "Do you think they'll follow?" Marcus queried, fear threading the edges of his question. "For every betrayal, there is an opening for trust." My voice trembled as I spoke, determination seeping into every syllable. "We have to learn from the mistakes of the past. If our enemies are human, so too are we. We take the fight to the very architects of our destruction." If nothing else, it felt dangerously exciting, taking control back from the grip of fear, steering our narrative into the unknown, threading those lives woven tightly through our pasts. "If we can reach them," Lola finally said, her eyes flickering with a defiant hope, "maybe we can dismantle the mission the patrol has laid before us. Perhaps we can redefine victory for all of us." The echo of her words clashed audibly within the chamber filled with uncertainty, but it shaped something new, a true declaration of purpose. And just as she spoke, the corridor lurched. Footsteps crashed louder in pursuit, heavy boots resonating through the gritty concrete beneath us. "The time's up," Marcus yelled, adrenaline ripping through his voice. "We have to move now." The shadow of choice draped heavily across my shoulders as we launched ourselves into the fray, racing towards our unknown fate. Hearts ignited by hope, fueled by urgency. Outside, the faint burst of sunlight fought against the encroaching darkness, crafting a desperate autumn glow that ignited our path forward. I thought of the shattered bonds we might mend, the enemies we might lay to rest, and most importantly, the lives intertwined in so many choices we'd yet to make. Together, I breathed, slicing through the shadows that chased us down. And as we sprung back into the surface battleground, I pushed against the encroaching tides, hoping against hope to reclaim our very essence, however fractured it had become. But with every ragged breath, my spirit thrummed in rhythm with the chaos driven by deeper conflicts, both within and without, the flickers of a new dawn just beginning to break. As I maneuvered through the tangled remnants, each step taking me toward our uncharted future, I felt the unrelenting pulse of survival thrumming beneath us all, carving a legacy written not just in blood, but birthed from the courage to live against the currents of despair. The patrol thought they could corral humanity as they twisted it, but we were destined to redefine ourselves from the embers of this war. Just as we found our way into the night, another wave swept over us, shattering the facade of safety as we emerged into the open. There was no turning back, not while the darkness loomed with the threat of their twisted ambitions, not while we still had ember light in our eyes and a universe of freedom igniting our hearts. Together, agility meeting resilience, we fled into the night, hunting for the flickers of truth amid the chaos, poised to reclaim not just our world, but our very souls. The night air was electric, laced with the aftermath of battle and the promise of memories yet to unfold. We fled through shifting shadows, ducking in and out of pockets of decay and ruined remnants of a city I had once known, now a battlefield against an enemy as insidious as dusk creeping in on daylight. Each hurried step brought us closer, closer to gathering the fragments of a revolution bound not by weapons and sacrifice, but by trust and rebirth. The streets of the Commonwealth District slithered in darkness, a treacherous landscape speckled with the faint glow of makeshift illumination. We needed a safe haven, a place to regroup, to process the data I had retrieved from the control room. All around me, the air smelled of smoke and uncertainty, memories of euphoria and fear tangling into a song of survival. "A turn here," Lola commanded, urgency slicing through the murmur of our hectic pace. She gestured toward an alleyway choked with overgrown vines and shattered debris. "There's a market square a few blocks ahead. If the civilians are still around, they'll be hiding there." As we pushed through the narrow passage, I cast a glance back, heart racing. The dark branches hung heavily, twisting like skeletal fingers around our bodies, though our shared resolve kept me steady. "What now?" Marcus whispered, grasping his weapon tighter, eyes scanning for threats. "Rally anyone we can find," Lola replied. Her voice slid into a steady rhythm, filled with cautious optimism. "It's time we take a stand. We're not alone anymore." Each footfall echoed against the stone. It felt as though the world itself pulsed with our heartbeats, sinking deeper into a unity born from shared survival. It became clear that the stakes shifted with every breath we took. This was no longer just a battle against the patrol. It was a fight for the souls trapped under the weight of deception and control. When we reached the market square, the volume of hushed voices swelled like a tidal wave breaking against the shore. Bodies were pressed together, dread etched into their faces, each shadow hiding a truth that longed for release. I surveyed the group, a motley assembly of the desperate and weary, civilians who had once supported our cause, but who now faced an uncertain future under the cracked yoke of oppression. As we stepped into the square, desperate eyes turned toward us. Whispers traveled like wildfire. "The troopers are here. What do they want? Are they even alive? Everyone, listen." Lola's voice rose above the tremors of uncertainty, surprising even me with its authority. "We are the 8th Battalion, deployed to fight for your freedom against the patrol. We've gathered evidence. A harsh voice cut her off from somewhere in the crowd, a figure shifting forward. "You think we'll believe you? You think you're here to save us? Trust us," I shouted, driven by a swell of passion. "We've seen what they're planning. They want to strip away our humanity and turn us into soldiers without heart's tools for their war." The murmurs deepened, but I saw wisdom flicker within the crowd, recognition igniting among the weary faces. "How do we know you're not just another facade?" the harsh voice asked. "We don't expect you to trust us. Not yet." Marcus stepped forward, his bravado steadying me. "But we can prove that we are not what you think. Ever since this conflict erupted, we have all been pawns of a ruthless game. Our rebellion is about making choices that can lead us to unity rather than division. Together, we can dismantle their lies and liberate those who have been turned against us," Lola continued. "The tech they've integrated into those once our brothers and sisters is our next step. But you're needed. They've pulled us apart for far too long." Silence draped the market square. It was a tense pause pregnant with what could come next. Either the branches of rebellion would begin to intertwine, or they would wither in the face of distrust. Then, as if wired to one another's thoughts, murmurs morphed into soft agreement. Maybe a voice edged forward. "What proof do you have?" I took a deep breath, grappling with the weight of what I had seen, the relentless bond emerging from every shared glimpse of struggle. "I have data from their command center, the augmented soldiers. There is a way to reach them," I replied, my voice rising with conviction. "We can no longer afford to let divisiveness tear at our humanity. Engage with the lost, those manipulated by fear. We can get their attention. Show us." Another voice chimed supportively, and the doubting stance began to shift as the fire of hope ignited within the crowd. Carefully, I set up a holographic display born from the data I had retrieved, the air illuminated with shifting graphics of what lay behind the walls of deceit. The faces of those augmented flickered one after another, accompanied by numbers outlining their affiliations. These people were once part of our movement, once friends, now lost to a regime that leeches loyalty, I said, pressing on. As the image danced before their eyes, a collective breath shifted. I could see their minds tracing a path from safety to danger to obedience to freedom. They are players in a higher game. The core of this conflict is betrayal disguised as loyalty. The patrol has used us against one another. The crowd shifted, stirred into action. A ripple of energy began to spread as murmured conversations took root, untangling the strands of distrust and connecting the people beyond fear. Eyes ignited, glints of recognition and courage rising from every corner. One voice, an older man, stepped forward, thick lines of age etched into his forehead. "We've trekked through darkness together. We fought a war against apathy and complacency." He glanced around, gathering gaze after gaze. "If we have a chance to reclaim our lives, then we will stand." The crowd surged, a tide of solidarity swelling against the backdrop of destruction that loomed overhead. "We're ready," echoing back as they pushed one another back, fanning embers of bravery. Suddenly, a commotion erupted from the opposite end of the square. A band of soldiers emerged, cloaked in uniforms emblazoned with symbols that felt foreign now. The patrol had arrived. Adrenaline surged through the crowd. They were ready to scatter and flee, but a pulse of determination stretched through me. Panic pushed against reason as Lola stepped forward, her presence a steady rock among jagged edges. "Stay together," she shouted, positioning herself firmly to face the oncoming threats. "Remember why we fight." As my heart beat loud against my ribcage, I across the crowd, faces grim but resolute. My breath hitched as the patrol soldiers approached, their predatory stares searching for weakness. Yet what they met was a semblance of unity I hadn't believed we could forge so quickly. Shadows shook and shadowed memories whispered that fear had blinded us for too long. We would not crumble this time. Lola raised her weapon with a confidence I had come to admire, the group at her back mirroring determination. "We choose to rise. We choose to fight back." The patrol roared as they approached, unleashed and unrelenting. Their white, hot fury ignited waves of dread through me, yet I held my ground. "We stand united," I shouted, feeling the pulse of resolve gather at our core. As chaos met storm in that split second, we unleashed everything we had grown into. The bonds that snuffed out the flames of fear over the jagged edges of conflict. With a flash, battle erupted, and I dove back, ready, my heart pounding like a war drum in my ears. Pulses of energy surged as our voices thrummed together, alive, as if we had become one. We outnumbered them, we held onto each other and fought against the shadows that threatened to tear us apart again. Fueled by the warmth of where we all came from, we countered with purpose. In those fleeting moments, every ounce of conflict we had shared molded the fire in our hearts into a chain that would not stand broken. And as fire crackled against sleek metal, that frail line between humanity and betrayal grew steadily thicker. And then emerged a truth our enemies had long sought to conceal. We were far more powerful than any weapon. Transcended in unity, our bonds trapped in the essence of liberation, and filled with the promise of something greater. In that chaos, distances melted, and as we fought for our future, I felt an unspoken pact solidify in the air of our square. A realism swept through us that blurred the differences between what was lost and what we were about to reclaim. We were the revolution redefined. The undercurrent of fear evaporated, replaced by a fierce will to rise. Together. The tide surged forward. We emerged from the fog, forged by the memories of those lost to us, now a tide untangled. It ebbed and flowed, our footsteps charging toward uncertainty and desperation, yet united still, as dawn began to break over the horizon of a new age. This was only the start, and together we would carve our path into the night and beyond it, seeking not only to reclaim what was lost, but to redefine the very essence of what future awaited beneath the weight of shadows. Dawn broke over the Commonwealth District, a sliver of light cutting through the remnants of destruction and despair like a blade through darkness. We had fought through the night, clawing our way against overwhelming odds, and now the promise of a new day presented itself, a relentless surge against the horrors of the past. We emerged battered, weary, but steadfast in our newfound purpose and united in resistance against the patrol. What's next? I asked Lola as we shifted through the debris that littered the streets, the air thick with remnants of chaos. The crowd we had saved had blossomed into a small army, brimming with the flickers of determination and hope they had found among us. Each person bore stories and scars, and I was beginning to see the true strength of our alliance, the resolve to reclaim what had been stolen from them. Lola paused momentarily, surveying the devastation coated in a shimmer of dawn light. "We need to gather resources and establish a base," she murmured, her voice steady despite the exhaustion that clung to her. "Back to the remnants. They can help us." I felt a quiet fire ignite within me at the mention of the remnants. While they had once existed in the margins of our society, they were now our best hope and our essential bridge toward rebuilding. And then what? I pressed, my heart racing with anticipation and anxiety. "Then we take the fight to the core of the patrol," she affirmed, her gaze sharp and unyielding. "We gather the augmentations, those once on our side, and show them the truth. This war is not just about survival, it's about awakening humanity." Marcus stepped up alongside us, resolve glowing in his eyes. "Since we left the control room, I've been thinking. We have tech. They don't know the extent of our capabilities. If we can reach those being twisted against their will, we can turn the tide." "Yes," Lola agreed, a fierce determination sharpening her features. "But we need to tread cautiously. The patrol has eyes everywhere, and if they suspect we are moving against them, we're dead before we even reach them." As we began to strategize, I turned my thoughts inward. The swirling maelstrom of events from the previous days felt suffocating. We had faced so much, learning that every life lost held a weight far greater than the burden of our fight. It was time for clarity. A binding purpose lay just ahead, casting flickering embers into our straying paths. Voices echoed behind us. Some were familiar, a few unrecognizable. The citizens we had pulled together were drawn like moths to the flame of our struggle. Rallying whispers transformed the alleyways into channels of hope. "What do we do now?" someone asked, uncertainty lacing their tone. "Our first strength is unity," I called out, gripping the attention of the growing crowd with earnestness. "We won this fight together, and it has sparked our fire. Together we can retrieve the lost. The remnants know this land. We can use their guidance to navigate our future reclaim." As I looked into their eyes, a tapestry of emotion sewn into the foundation of our shared struggle, I felt a swell of strength that surged between us. We could rebuild, reshape the landscape marred by distrust, one link at a time, becoming a chain that defied the oppression thrown upon us. With one accord, we turned our steps toward the remnants of the city, each foot striking against the pavement with a newfound sense of purpose. It was imperative we act quickly. The tide of battle might shift against us if we hesitated, and the emergent threats loomed heavily like dark clouds on the horizon. The remnants resided behind the market square, a heart of life simmering in the embrace of decay, weaving tales of resistance long nurtured in silence. Their dwellings were built from what the city had forgotten, homes made of fractured metal and repurposed dreams. Arriving at our destination, I lost myself in wonder. The veils of chaos dissolved in waves of optimism. It surged through the hidden corridors, alive with tenacity tightly woven into the fabric of their lives. "Are you sure they'll be receptive?" Marcus asked, a flicker of its own trepidation underlying his concern. "We won't know until we try," I replied, spurred by the thrum of hope that wound through my veins. "They've been calling for compassion. Let's offer the bond of truth." With breathless anticipation, we crossed the threshold into a gathering space, clogged with shadows beneath woven tapestries, etched with stories of lives intermingled in paths of struggle. The aroma of simmering broth reached us, trailing into the bolstered hearts of the remnants. They gathered around us, curiosity glistening in their eyes. "Troopers from the Commonwealth," a woman said, voice steady like the pulse of a drum. "What brings you here? We're here to unite," Lola proclaimed, emotions braided together in her resolve. "The patrol has risen against us, against our very humanity. We need your guidance. We want to reclaim this city." Twists of emotion coursed through the crowd, and murmurs sparked like kindling. They bore skepticism. A rift carved from long, held distrust. But beneath it simmered a craving for liberation that bound us together. We've been waiting for a real chance to fight. A man stepped forward, sharing the weight of his heart on the edge of despair. "You think we can trust you? We've seen betrayal bleed through too many times." I glanced over to Lola, whose gaze flared with resolve. "We know the cost of trust," I declared, a deep-rooted sincerity settling in my voice. "But deeper still is our truth. You haven't been alone nor forgotten." Together, we can not only dismantle the patrol but unpack the inner workings that keep us all fractured. One by one, the crowd stirred. Distrust ebbed and flowed like the tide until, amidst shadows, a flicker ignited. The choices we made began to shape the promises of our future. "We can show you how to break through their lines," a woman interjected, telling tales imbued with whispers of resistance buried deep within the underbelly of the city. "But we have always known sacrifice." We moved into our plans with renewed fervor, propelled by a tide of shared stories that painted shadows upon our past. We'd learned, bending against challenges and finding footholds amid the chaos. From the lull of despair rose a wellspring of immeasurable strength. Community would be our driving force. Days turned into nights, our goal steadfast, melding unity across hidden rooftops and underground passes. Together, we mapped the heartbeat of the city, combining resources, tech, and sheer force. Time progressed in cycles of collaborative growth, and as seedlings sprouted beneath the wreckage, we sought to embrace what they had once severed. Not strength through weapons, but what we were willing to fight for together. Every conversation sparked a cascade of energy, each gathering fine-tuned our approach until our purpose melded seamlessly. We stood at the cusp of our newfound plans, assumptions and goals weaving seamlessly, igniting owls of bravery to illuminate every corner. "When this works," I said to Lola one night, her silhouette framed by our flickering campfire, "it will be a beacon of hope." Her eyes glimmered in the flame's glow, steadfast and full of dreams, piercing through my doubt. "We're already becoming one," she gently refuted, the shadows flickering against her skin. Camaraderie shivered around us. Yet the horizon never lay still. What awaited us beyond this passage was dangerously close. As we grew in strength, the patrol too fortified its walls. Future skirmishes loomed over our plans like dark clouds, waiting for their moment to unleash fury upon us once more. Still, we remained resolute. "The cost of freedom isn't merely action, but choice," I murmured beneath breath when our plans solidified with the remnants. My heart thrummed deeply. I understood then that daring to trust would hold a measurable weight. We remained poised at the edge of battle, now braving the depths of treachery, unfurling in the midst of choices yet to come. Our bonds forged between the flames of resistance, and the promise of dawn reflected across the cracks we had stitched together. It was time. Gathered, armored in voices, we turned our eyes toward the field, hearts synced to the rhythm of unity, the coming storm that would carve our future amid the shadows. Together we would outweigh the weight of fear, now resilient under the fires that would ignite our rebellion, led with determination to reclaim our very essence as victors unrelenting. With unwavering vigor, I stood at the forefront of the march, the palpable energy coursing from every soul behind me. "We fight for more than ourselves," I shouted, lifting my voice above the anticipatory rumble. "We fight for our humanity. Our unity can't be broken." And as we stepped forth into the light, a wave of hope trailing behind us as fierce silhouettes against a backdrop of a dawning revolution. We were not just reclaiming a city. We were igniting the spirit of humanity reborn anew. Today would mark the first chapter of our legacy, Today we would redefine victory once more. Forward, Lola cried, the battle hymn on her lips echoing in unison, and together we surged toward the horizon, driven by the strength of our unity, hearts ablaze in the eternal pursuit of freedom. Under the mutated dawn, we surged forward as one, an unbroken tide of unity and rebellion coursing through the city streets. The firmament hung heavy with tension, thick with anticipation and the weight of history. Today was not just a day, it was a reckoning. It was time to reclaim everything we had lost, sending tremors through the regime that had attempted to throttle our humanity. As we moved toward the headquarters of the patrol, each footfall mirrored the heartbeat of countless souls behind us, drawing strength from the shared purpose that pulsed within our ranks. I could feel the tremors of hope lifting us even against the dread that swirled in the air, the ghosts of those that had fought and fallen whispering through each of our steps. We were here not only to dismantle their cruel machinations, but to reclaim the essence of what made us human. Stay sharp, Lola's command echoed as we rounded the corner toward the monolithic structure that loomed before us, a fortress of stark metal and glass that once served as a grim reminder of the patrol's icy grip over our world. Tendrils of fear coiled through my gut as the sense of the specter of betrayal kissed the back of my neck like a whisper. But I tightened my grip on my weapon and squashed those thoughts. Self-doubt had no place in this moment. We had come too far. Marcus walked beside me, scanning our surroundings with hardened resolve. If the intel we gathered from the remnants is accurate, he murmured, the mainframe holds more than just tactical data. They've been fabricating stories, manipulating us all like puppets on strings. His features were chiseled into a stoic mask, but the fervor in his voice colored our journey with a hint of seriousness. This is our chance to expose the lies. We can't let fear dictate our actions. We must seize the narrative, I affirmed, my heart racing with the urgency of our mission. What was at stake was more than just our liberation. It was the truth, the very fabric that linked our humanity together. At that moment, a low rumble echoed in the distance, reverberating off the concrete walls of the city, followed by a flash of light that cracked through the sky, illuminating the stark reality of the situation. Waves of anticipation rippled through the crowd, casting concerned glances toward the ever-looming building ahead. They know we're here, Lola declared, leveling her gaze with fierce focus. We're not turning back. Fingers clenched around our weapons, we readied ourselves as we approached the awe-inspiring entrance, the glowing emblem of the patrol emblazoned above like a wicked eye watching from above. Each symbol of authority promised destruction and oppression. My pulse quickened, filling me with a sense of determination and dread all at once. Lola pressed forward first. On my mark, she commanded, urgency tightening every syllable. We nodded, and anticipation hung heavy between us. 3, 2, 1. We broke through the entrance together, the doors swinging wide in our wake as we launched into the expansive atrium filled with burnt wood, shattered glass, and ominous memories of troops who had once claimed their dominance here. A suppressive fire boomed Marcus, and we scattered into position. A series of gunshots ricocheted off the walls in response, splashes of energy bursting like fireworks against the debris we took cover behind. In that fevered moment, the air shifted. I felt the tide of history turn as we were no longer outnumbered pawns, but the architects of our fight for freedom. Bolts of plasma whizzed past us, creating a cacophony of sound that thrummed through my body, igniting the fight within me. Expand the perimeter, I yelled, scanning for our allies, unwavering amidst the chaos. As we pushed deeper into the patrol's hold, illuminated screens lit up with dispatches from the command center, revealing horrific truths. They've been experimenting on citizens, I shouted, voice rising above the din. The augmented, they're not enemies, they're victims. Our fight must extend beyond these walls. Keep moving, Lola shouted back, her uncompromising spirit cutting through the thick tension. Firing a burst of energy into incoming patrol soldiers, adrenaline surged through me as I forged ahead. We were creating a chorus of defiance, each pulse of energy matching the thrum of rebellion gathering momentum. As we fought through waves of resistance, the layout turned familiar. Echoes from the control room replayed in my mind, the web of paths leading us through the labyrinthine heart of oppression. We would seize this moment and catalyze the storm. A door clanged open at the end of a hallway, revealing a control panel extravagant with buttons and flickering displays. There, I pointed toward the room that lay ahead as a mixture of urgency and determination filled my veins. That is where we can access the mainframe. It'll connect us to the core of the patrol's operations. Rushing to the door, my heartbeat pounded loudly in my ears. There was still a weight of fear lurking beneath every breath I took, but I couldn't waver now. "Marcus, with me," I shouted, pushing through. We quickly set ourselves around the entrance, ready to engage. A surge of voices erupted, the patrol realizing what we intended. "Prepare for assault," echoed from deeper within the complex, urgency rising in the voices of our foes. I caught sight of the soldiers clad in armor bracing for impact, their eyes filled with determined ferocity. These were men and women who believed they were siding with justice. "Cover me." Marcus exploded into action, firing shots aimed true, while I charged toward the control console, seeking the access panel. My fingers danced on the interface. I dove into the code at light speed, searching for the information needed to expose their darkest truths. But fingers faltered as the walls around us quaked under incoming fire, and I struggled to harness the adrenaline that raced through my system. I could hear the echo of my heart pounding against the backdrop of chaos, an orchestra of defiance stirred by the promise of liberation. Come on," I muttered under my breath, scanning for answers. Suddenly, the door burst open behind us, too fast, too furious. "Get down," Lola yelled, shoving me aside just as a volley of energy whizzed wildly through the air. I stumbled onto the ground, rolling away, gasping for air. As chaos surged around me, all thoughts of hesitation were stripped away. My resolve was thicker than blood. "Defend the door," I shouted, adrenaline elevating my voice. The fight surged once more, filling the already battered hall with clamorous explosions and ricochets of whirling energy. But even amidst the violence, a quiet resolve seeped into every fiber of my being. "Here," I called to Marcus as I found my way back into the data paths. "If I can decode this, I can override their protocol. Make it so we expose everything." With that, I plunged into the chaotic world inside the mainframe, every line, every digit crucial to pulling the veil from the patrol's twisted intentions. There lay a reservoir of connections that could either save us or pull us down the abyss. But the oncoming tide of soldiers continued to pour in. Darkness crept against the walls where our unity shined brightest. "Hold the line," Marcus yelled again, pushing forth against the onslaught, body trembling from the weight of unfathomable resolve. Gina, Lola fought back the tide, her eyes blazing fiercely. "We need to hurry. I can do this," I answered, adrenaline coursing like fire through my veins, fingers racing against the resistance that surged within the data. "Just give me a moment. Make it a quick one," she hissed in urgency, gripping her weapon while defending our small fortress against the encroaching enemy. As I dove deeper, I glimpsed trails of data, paths that led to their failures and negligence. The patrol had crafted a narrative, twisting every thread until they became something grotesque. But we would expose the truth, a beacon cut against the darkness that had bound us so tightly for so long. And then it all clicked. A flood of information cascaded down as I unearthed hidden documents detailing brutal renditions of augmentation. Tech designed to make humans into weapons, themselves driven away from compassion into obedient machines devoid of choice. "I found it," I shouted, heart renewed as my fingers flew with newfound resolve. "We can show everyone what the patrol has done." As Marcus held the line, eyes grim with unwavering focus, I pressed the confirmation button. The screens lit up with records, the documents themselves scribbled with the darker history that had tainted our past. The air crackled with energy. The truth about our humanity, the sacrifices made, pulsed bright in the glow of the screens illuminating our vision, a promise born anew. "Egina," Lola shouted in fierce urgency, grasping my shoulder. "We need to escape. They'll retaliate. Almost there." I shouted back, the exhilaration of discovery pushing the boundaries of fear. This will turn the tide for us. As the dust settled around, resolve ignited into reality. I turned to face the chaos as the mainframe continued to display all that demanded to be seen. But just as I neared encryption, a deafening roar filled the air. A systematic wave of sound that surged forth from the patrol soldiers gathering at our heels, intent on snuffing out our flame. "Get out," Lola yelled. And now, Lola, I'm so close, but without hesitation, she gripped my arm, pulling me away from the console. "We'll reconnect with this data. Just the two of us can't win it all here. You don't look back." It was here and now that I was faced with a decision, but as soon as we turned, the console detonated, sending a radiant explosion outward as the patrol rushed around us. "Heads up," Marcus called, adrenaline bursting into the air as we pushed past the broken remnants and darted toward an escape route. "Go," I yelled, adrenaline driving me ahead as the chamber swelled with incendiary fire. A brilliant flash and a crescendo of physics swirled hellishly behind us. We stumbled through the chaos as time slowed, and everything around us blurred into nothingness. My thoughts raced faster than the walls that closed in. "Get to safety," Lola yelled, leading our cohorts toward the exit. "We will regroup and reclaim the data. Everyone move. Go, go, go." I shouted, racing forward through the blinding haze, adrenaline igniting every fiber of my being. We pushed through the wreckage where shadows danced. My lungs burned as we finally reached the exit, a myriad of risk mingling with hope as we shoved past the warped and jagged gates. Emerging outside, sunlight broke through like a shattering glass ceiling, illuminating the chaos everywhere, the fleeting moments of panic in those fleeing alongside us. The sound of blaring alarms punctuating the backdrop of conflict. But from the ash, hope erupted within every soul around me, infusing the very air we breathed. "You made it," murmured one of the remnants, grasping our arms with tight, excited hope in their eyes. "Where's the data? We'll come back," I shouted, breathless as the real fear of loss gnawed at me. But shining within those reflections was the realization that victory lay ahead. We would rewrite a dismal past. The winds of uncertainty whipped against us, but the heart of our unity remained strong, pulling behind the souls that dared to believe once more. "It will take this fight to them," I affirmed, recognizing the moment etched in every breath. Together, we watched as the sun began to rise higher in the sky. Amidst chaos and uncertainty, the light revealed the scars of battle melded with the fire of resilience, an unquenchable spark that would never be extinguished. It ignited the fervent determination within us all, embracing our scars as the fabric that adorned our fight. And as we gathered alongside the remnants, echoing hope surged through the ranks again. We were the uprising. Together we would transform misunderstanding into strength. The tide would shift, and what had once been lost could be reclaimed anew. Forward, Lola raised her weapon as the rhythmic thunder of our footsteps continued to pulse through the streets. But together, we will redefine our future. The heart of rebellion surged bright as we moved forward like a force unyielding, empowered by the bonds we had forged, determined to reclaim our legacy, a legacy intertwined with the very essence of our humanity. Today marked not just a mission, but a testament of possibility, reshaping everything we ever thought to be true. And with unparalleled determination, we ventured forth, ready to reclaim our story, destined to rise anew. The pulse of the city thrummed beneath our feet as we pressed forward, the daylight filtering through a haze of smoke and debris that lingered like ghosts of the past. The atmosphere crackled with unresolved tension, a silent promise woven into the fabric of a day reminiscent of our earlier struggles. We were no longer just a coalition of soldiers and remnants, but an unstoppable force for change, carving our path through the marrow of a broken system. Just ahead lay the patrol's headquarters, a dominating fortress crowned with ominous towers that pierced the sky. It was here that we would wage our war, not just against the forces that had terrorized us, but against the very narratives that had sought to reshape humanity itself. Each step drew us nearer to potential freedom, to the hope of exposing the lies that had threaded through the essence of our existence. "We're almost there," I directed over the sound of hurried footsteps and hushed whispers. The thrumming of our collective heartbeat pushed us onward, elevating the tremble of fear beneath our bravado. I could sense the minds of the remnants shifting as we approached the stronghold, lingering doubts battling with fiery resolve. "Stick together," I called, locking eyes with Lola and Marcus as we pressed through a narrow alley that led toward the base's rear entrance. "Once we breach," Marcus added, glancing over his shoulder, "every second will count. Brace yourselves for resistance." "Good news for us," I replied, summoning a smile despite the adrenaline coursing through my veins. "We've become experts in resistance." In perfect sync, we came upon the rear door, a rusted and imposing barrier studded with locks and hardened by years of neglect. I crouched in front of the control panel, my fingers tracing the mesh of wires and screws, a labyrinth of code waiting to be untangled. "Let's hope their security's mediocre," I murmured, digging into the layers of data. I could feel the presence of my comrades behind me, strength in a world that had belittled our resolve. Just as I engaged the panel with a precise touch, an electric hum vibrated through the metal, and the door creaked open with a reluctant sigh. "We're in," I announced softly, adrenaline firing through me. "Remember, the mainframe lies deeper within. Stick to the plan." The darkness greeted us, permeated only by the muted thrumming of machinery. We crouched low and moved forward. The walls were draped in grime, thick shadows, and the low hum of energy coursed through every crevice. "Stay vigilant," Lola reminded, her voice barely above a whisper, as if the mere act of speaking would invite detection. Lining the hallway, flickering lights sporadically illuminated our path, providing brief glimpses of the layout that crisscrossed the patrol's stronghold. Each door was a potential passage, and each passage a chance to uncover their deepest secrets. "We don't have much time," I reminded the group as we arrived at another set of heavy doors. "Let's work quickly." Emerging into a wide-open control room, the hardware hummed with a life of its own. Green and blue displays pulsing like living organisms, their readings alight with the gait of an apparatus finely tuned for havoc. "This is it," I declared, but before I could take a step forward, a bone-chilling alarm erupted throughout the complex, the sound a harbinger of our impending confrontation. "Time's up," Lola shouted, leading the charge toward the central terminal. She flicked the switch on her weapon, firing off instinctive shots that found their mark on encroaching patrol soldiers who had begun to swarm in from both sides. "Get to the mainframe," I barked, my heart pounding in tandem with the chaos that erupted around us. The fury of gunfire blasted through the air, ricocheting off metallic surfaces and puncturing the defiance we had nurtured. Scattered fragments of light-illuminated faces set tight with determination. Our feet thundered over the polished floor. Together we pressed through, each obstacle prodding us forward. I dove for the main console, a colossal arrangement of screens glowing with life. My hands flew over the controls, searching for the pathways that would unlock the core day. Everything that would expose how the patrol had twisted our world. "Cover me," I shouted, sinking into the task at hand. Lines of code flickered past, sections of data demanding attention. A vast network of interconnected files, all shielded by the weight of their malice. Behind me, the sounds of gunfire blared tempestuously, the patrol soldiers pressing closer, desperate to push us back into darkness. "This won't take long," I insisted, determination burning through every core of my being as memories of lost friends and families surged through me. I plugged in the external drive, hoping it would siphon the vast complexity of crimes committed against us. How could I face them if I failed here? Just as the first set of files began to download, a barrage of plasma blasts erupted around us, illuminating the dim chamber in flashes of colors that seared through the air. One blast grazed my shoulder, sending me sprawling. I grunted in pain but scrambled back to my feet, pressing against the console. Almost there, I shouted over the din, gritting my teeth against the ache. "Finish it!" Marcus yelled, his voice powerful as he fought against a group of soldiers that closed in from my left. I could see the flash of determination in his eyes as he held the line. It ignited something deep within my core. The console buzzed urgently, dishing out alarm tones as the volume of encoded data escalated. I pushed forward, leaning deeper into the task. "Come on." My fingers flew as I navigated through firewalls, the resistance around me blurring into a familiar rhythm. "Gina, behind you." I barely had time to react. A shadow cast by one of the soldiers loomed over me, weapon drawn, ready to take me out, and with a tight gasp, I hurled myself away as Lola echoed my name. The moment shifted within a heartbeat. I spun and ducked low, narrowly avoiding a shot that exploded against the wall behind me. "This ends now," she shouted, moving in for the attack, deflecting each bead of plasma that threatened to take us down, her resolve as sharp as the blades we wielded. I knew in that instant that I needed to finish what I had set out to accomplish. "I won't let you down," I yelled, locking my focus back on the glowing display before me. My heart raced as I felt their eyes upon me, giving me strength to rise above the chaos. Just as I regained focus, the final bits of secured files began to download. The weight of their loss, of betrayal, flushed through me like waves. Voices of pain pushed me onward. I felt the data surge forth, truths I had longed to unearth pressing against me like a truth long buried. "Your time is almost up," Marcus called, voice booming as the onslaught intensified. "We can't hold much longer. Almost there. Just a little bit more," I cried, my fingertips ablaze with urgency as I neared the end of the process. Final files merged with the external drive, just as a bolt of energy screeched past me, narrowly missing again. Suddenly, with a surge of light, the console blinked in response. **download complete **. I lifted my gaze toward the others. Our odds had shifted, adrenaline pumping through our veins. "We have what we need," I yelled amidst the chaos, turning to gather my comrades. "Let's move." But the door that led back to the corridor crashed open, revealing a slew of armed patrol soldiers, their eyes cold and resolute. They moved forward with an urgency born of desperation, intent on quelling our flames of rebellion. "Good luck," Marcus breathed as he leveled his weapon toward the incoming tide, sword-like importance rippling through every breath. "And no, we're not going to let them take us," I shouted back, urgency curling tightly around my throat. "We're more than what they wish to wield." As the clash ensued, our spirits surged, bound by purpose. The flames of resolution raged in ensconcing patterns. No attempt to shatter our unity would stand against the bond of defiance swelling in our hearts. Through smoke and shouts, a glimmer of hope shimmered, a path out of the chaos, but it wound deeper still through the tumult. With the data secured, we raced headlong into the fray, clinging fiercely to each other as countless realities folded into one. We would not be broken. We would rise. As sounds of battle pulsed then surged, forging ourselves anew amidst the tumult, we pressed onward through the remnants of the violent storm that had sought to swallow us in darkness. Together, we were unstoppable. Together, we would reclaim our destiny. Now, it was our time to reforge the narrative, casting aside every fear into the blazing dawn that approached, our flames of rebellion flickering resiliently against the vastness of our now reshaped reality. And what had begun as a choreographed dance of survival would now become our reckoning. Today, the city would remember our names. Today, we would carve our legacy anew, painted upon the very tapestry of truth we had clawed so fiercely to expose. As we bolted through the exit into the open air that awaited heartbeats thrumming, adrenaline soaring, we formed a singular unit, standing resolute against all odds, determined to ignite the fires of reclamation and rewrite the thrilling chapters yet to come. Forward, I shouted, resolute as bullets zipped past. We surged through the streets, an unstoppable force fanned by relentless courage, ready to transcend the shackles of our past and weave a future brighter than the shimmering horizon. The war may have begun under shadowy headlights, but it would end in triumph. The dawn of our rebellion had only just begun. Together, we would rise as guardians of the truth, reclaiming the very essence of our humanity. The patrol would tremble beneath the truth of unity, and we would become the architects of our destiny. As we stood on the threshold of destiny, our hearts beat in synchrony, each pulse reverberating with a fierce resolve that resonated through the ranks of our newfound allies. The dawn sky began to bleed into shades of gold and rose, illuminating the remnants of our city with a living promise. This was our moment. Ahead lay the fortified headquarters of the patrol, an oppressive structure looming like a predator watching its prey. And with it came the heavy weight of responsibility, balanced with the intensity of our shared resolutions. "Remember your purpose," I called out, positioning myself just in front of the group. The tension hung thick in the air, but steely determination permeated the ranks. This is our opportunity to break free from the shackle of repression, the chance to reclaim everything we have lost. Marcus stood to my left, eyes alight with a blend of anxiety and unyielding bravery. "Let's show them what courage looks like. We're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for the freedom of everyone they've manipulated." His words echoed throughout the group, bolstering our spirits in the face of the darkness that lay before us. Lola cast a sharp look over the cotter we had assembled, filled with men and women bearing the marks of their struggle, soldiers and civilians alike, who had dared to stand against the crushing weight of oppression. "Our goal is not just to overthrow their might, but to expose their lies. The world must see the truth of what we've endured. Are you ready?" "Yes," the crowd echoed back, a roaring affirmation that soared above the noise of tension and anticipation that filled the air. "Then let's move," she commanded, her voice a rallying cry that propelled us forward, feet pounding against the asphalt as we bolted toward the gates of the patrol's stronghold, the range of the future teetering just out of reach. As we approached the main entrance, fear slithered through my gut. An uneasy sensation coiled tightly, not from my impending actions but from the willingness of my comrades beside me, their hopes intertwined with mine. Steeling my resolve, I charged ahead, and the guards stationed at the door turned wide-eyed, stunned by the wave of humanity that descended upon them. In that instant, all fear fell to the wayside. We surged through the entry, our numbers overwhelming them as shots began to erupt, pulsing through the air in an electrifying fury. "Press on," I yelled, barely hearing the sound of my own voice over the explosions that reverberated around us. We fought through the sprawling lobby, once an emblem of authority, now a battleground filled with echoes of determination. A cacophony that had come alive through the grit and valor of each person present. Bullets sailed through the air, ricocheting off the walls, the shards glinting like stars colliding in a cosmic dance. As we pushed deeper into the heart of the patrol's domain, "Egina to the right," Lola shouted, her voice sharp as she pointed toward a side corridor where soldiers flocked in a desperate attempt to repel us. Without hesitation, I followed her lead, sweeping into the corridor as an explosion shook the ground behind us, sending vibrations coursing through my bones. Desperate shouts erupted all around. The soldiers were reeling from the sudden flood of those challenging the authority with which they had once belittled. "We hold the line," Marcus growled as he fought beside me, the rhythm of the battle intensifying as we moved through every shadow, each movement straining for reclaiming momentum. In the corridor deeper within the stronghold, the darkness clung to us like a second skin, whispers of past choices spiraling through my mind, doubts, long eclipsed by the clarity of purpose, coursed through me now. "We have to get to the mainframe," I urged, my voice resolute amidst chaos. It was there that we would download everything. the truth the patrol had sought to hide, the records that could expose their twisted morality. Lola nodded decisively, her presence uplifted by the fire that surged within. "This way," she commanded, leading the way with unwavering grace as we charged forward. Side rooms burst open with additional soldiers, but our determination pushed through like a wave. "We will not let them intimidate us," I announced as fists and weapons clashed, our spirits flaring against the bleating alarm that resonated through the halls. In the growing clamor, we crashed into the command center, a vast expanse filled with dazzling screens illuminating the erratic faces of our enemies, startled by our arrival. A spherical chamber fortified by cold, metallic walls radiated power, each hiss and hum underscored by desperate shouts flooding the air. Without hesitation, Marcus and Lola coordinated an onslaught, firing into the fray, giving me the moments I needed to reach the central console. I dropped against the console, racing against time, fingers flying as I navigated the virtual web of the system before me. The room thrummed alive with energy, the walls seemed to pulse, filled by the rising crescendo of war, yet within me there was a calm, a certainty that this was the moment we could shift the battle's momentum. "We need that information out now," Lola shouted back as more patrol forces stormed in, seeking to quench our uprising. "I'm trying," I replied, heart racing as the interface revealed layers upon layers of data, encrypted files bold with chilling blue text. Names, identities, prisoners lost to the abyss of the patrol's cruelty. There must be a way to expose all of this. In a frenzy, I punched in commands, desperately deciphering the massive database before me. Somewhere in the chaos, an explosion erupted, the last defenses of the patrol crumbling under the weight of our united force. "Cover me," I yelled, guided by urgency. I felt the weight of the room shift around me, each second stretching into an eternity. People rallied by virtue of courage fueled by an inseparable bond, defining their worth against the overwhelming tide of oppression crashing around us. 5 more seconds, I grunted, adrenaline coursing through my veins like molten lava, the deity standing at the precipice of exposure, flammable truths craving freedom. I pulled the final untangled string. The records began to reveal their sordid history. Each file unfurled like a tapestry, revealing accounts of shattered lives beneath the capabilities of cruel augmentation, twisted technology designed to strip away souls. "Done," I shouted, relief cascading through me like cool water on a burning sun. I engaged the broadcast system, and the screens around us blinked alive, glowing with irrefutable evidence of the patrol's crimes against humanity. The room fell silent. A hollowness enveloped the remaining soldiers, Combine's lips flecked with disbelief, as the images of their facade painted on the screens branded them in a haunting turmoil. Eyes widened, the realization pierced through, cascading doubt amid their twisted loyalty. At last the truth surged forth like a torrent. "No," roared a voice from the back. A high-ranking officer cut through the silence, eyes filled with rage surpassing all emotion. "You will not get away with this. We already have," I challenged, standing tall with unyielding resolve. "You will face the consequences of your actions. Humanity deserves the truth." The crimson of dawn spilled through the windows. Shadows began to move between the light and dark, turning uncertainty into rebellion, the resistance swelling with newfound determination. The air crackled as loyalty distorted. Our forces rose to counter every blow that sought to contain us, together reclaiming the very essence we fought for. "Let's finish this," Marcus yelled as we stormed forward, battling against the remnants of patrol soldiers, success eclipsing every thought of retreat. As the battle ignited ferociously around us, we pushed through, propelled not only by the knowledge we had uncovered, but also by the unity we had forged. Every blow thrown against the patrol pushed us deeper into truth, and as we fought, we crafted a new narrative that would give rise to hope even amid such darkness. In the gray expanse of the command center, my heart soared as I caught sight of my comrades dance, like movements illustrating the desperate defiance against the decay around us, strikes that secured more than victory. They secured liberty. The walls shook as we rose against the tide of malevolence, flickering like flags against the decay of our suffering. And then, as if the universe claimed our resilience, an unlikely ally stepped forth, an augmented soldier cloaked in the remnants of their humanity, shimmering in the balance between darkness and light. "Join me," they beckoned, stripping away their armor, revealing the scars of betrayal and lost identity that invited solidarity to rise anew. "Take this chance to reclaim yourself," I encouraged. In a single heartbeat, they joined our side, courage bursting forth as new allies rallied behind our truths. Together, the cries echoed, bolstering like thunder against the backdrop of suffocating oppression. "No more sacrifices," I uttered, hand extended toward the ex-soldier who had begun to carve a new path beside us. "Together, we will draw strength from each other, untangling the very alterations that confine and divide." With time suspended within chaos, we surged onward. Each step forward became a battle cry, soaring heaviness melting under the weight of growth that ran through our veins. And the threads of doubt quivered against the flames of hope, paving pathways toward an unfathomable future. A future we would define on our terms. "Forward," I shouted once more, the words rising through the air, lighting our resolve like wildfire. The last remnants of the patrol began to fade, their might splintering against the truth we stood for, the tide of operations shattering against the gleaming essence of our unity. Through blood and hurt, courage swelled bright. We charged forward, wading through the remnants of conflict that sought to breach our fire, carving ourselves into a presence that would long last until we broke into the sunlight once more. As we stepped onto the emerald fields beyond the city, the horizon gleamed brighter than I had ever known it to be. We paused atop a grassy knoll, breathless from the journey, but filled with unwavering pride. We stood together on the precipice of something extraordinary. Our legacy had only just begun. "Look," Lola pointed toward the gathering clouds on the horizon, vibrant hues dazzling in shades of orange and indigo. "The future waits for us." The faces of those alongside me shimmered, and though we bore the scars of our battles, each mark defined the fire we sparked, proof of humanity reclaimed. We could still feel the tremors of battle within us, but they felt softer now, like zephyrs that carried with them the promise of brighter tomorrows, weighed not only in hope, but in resolve. And beneath the banner of unity and the bloodshed we had traversed together, connections forged through loss and resilience solidified a new foundation, a world reborn, crafted from what had once been shattered. We would not allow our story to be dictated by those who sought to stifle our aspirations. We could change the narrative. We would be the architects of our future, a living testament that hope steadied our hearts, a victory proclaimed blooming forever into the skyline, a spectrum that stretched far beyond the realms of oppression. Love blossomed with opportunity amid the crowded chaos. Together, we raised our fists high, a signal of defiance. No longer just survivors, but valiant warriors who had reclaimed not only our rights, but our very essence. And as the sun beamed against our faces, we knew this was merely the beginning. We had dared to rise beyond the ashes, woven into the very fabric of brilliance yet to come. In that moment, our voices surged together, ringing against the wind a song carried into eternity, ignited by shared dreams, untangled destinies, telling the untold, we are united. We are free.